Fidelity, they have pushed for a Bitcoin ETF in a secret meeting with the SEC right out of the gate. Here's the deal. I don't like the fact that people are calling it a secret meeting. It's not a secret meeting. The SEC, CFTC, etc., other regulators meet all the time with market participants. They openly say, hey, we would like to talk to you. Please come and talk to us about things that you're concerned about or things that you want to discuss. And so Fidelity, which is one of the largest asset managers in the world, had a meeting over Zoom with the SEC. There's nothing secret about it. There's nothing, in my opinion, that's shady about it, etc. During the meeting, Fidelity urged the SEC, again, urged makes it seem like they were like pounding the table. Fidelity talked to the SEC to approve its Bitcoin exchange traded fund in a private meeting. Of course, every meeting is private between an asset manager and the SEC. And so there's several firms all have submitted these applications. They're trying to go ahead and get Bitcoin ETFs approved. And Fidelity basically is making the argument that there is a very, very deep investor appetite for cryptocurrencies, virtual currencies. Two is that there has been incredible growth of Bitcoin adoption. And so there's literally tens of millions of people around the world that hold Bitcoin. And then lastly is that there are tons of other funds like this, both ETFs and ETPs in other countries. So how is it that Canada or other countries have these funds, but we here in the United States do not? And so Fidelity's filed for a Bitcoin ETP, which is called the Wise Origin Bitcoin Trust in March of 2021. And more than 20 other similar applications from other firms have been made as well. And then Fidelity is planning to increase its crypto asset employee numbers by up to 70% by the end of the year, according to Bloomberg. We have two quotes. One is from Nicole Abbott, Fidelity spokeswoman. She said, an increasingly wide range of investors seeking access to Bitcoin has underscored the market need for more diversified set of products, offering exposure to digital assets to match demand. And then we have another one from Fidelity. I think this is just a letter they wrote. We believe Bitcoin futures-based products are not a necessary interim step before a Bitcoin ETP. Firms should be able to meet investor demand for direct exposure to Bitcoin through the 1933 Act, Bitcoin ETPs, because the Bitcoin market has matured and can support them. I generally think that a Bitcoin ETF obviously is going to get approved in the United States at some point. This year seems unlikely, but we will see. But in the next 2 years or so, I could easily see a Bitcoin ETF being approved. On top of that, I think that we drastically underestimate the importance of an ETF-like structure. We have Grayscale's GBTC product. We have Bitwise's BITW product. We also have companies that hold a lot of Bitcoin, like MicroStrategy, et cetera. And when you start to look at this, you can go back and you can look at past assets. When the ETF gets approved, there are some asset management firms that can't buy the trust, the GBTC trust, because it trades at a premium or at a discount to NAV. And so there's restrictions around it. Also, some people are not going to go buy MicroStrategy stock and say, oh, well, it's good enough indirect exposure to Bitcoin. They're going to wait for the ETF. So once the ETF gets approved, I think that there is likely going to be a surge in demand. The beauty of Bitcoin is if you have a fixed supply asset and demand increases, price is likely to drastically increase quickly. So what do we think the odds of a Bitcoin ETF being approved is, let's say in the next 18 to 24 months?
18 to 24? Yeah. I feel like that's probably pretty likely. If you said 6 months, I wouldn't be as confident, but 18 to 24. They've been working on this for 2-3 years now, right?
Oh, of course.
Infidelity is like the safest person you could do it with.
Why do you say that? It's interesting you say that because you don't spend all day like thinking about crypto.
What is the name of the woman who was at the head of the crypto division at Fidelity? She was driving the change.
You mean the entire Fidelity? Abigail Johnson?
Abigail Johnson.
Yeah, so she's the head of all of Fidelity, not just crypto.
All of Fidelity. That's right. Yeah. She has been very crypto forward for years now. And I think that Fidelity is something that you think about like, hey, I use it. My grandmother uses it. It's safe.
And so are you saying that that's a big part of why they are likely to be part of the approval?
Yes.
So my big thing on the Bitcoin ETF is I don't think they're going to pick one player. They're not just going to say, okay, Fidelity, you get the ETF approval, nobody else does. Yeah. Like the regulators aren't in the business of king making. Instead, what they're likely to do, again, no promise, but likely, is that the regulators are going to say, okay, Fidelity, Bitwise, Skybridge, Grayscale, and whoever else, all of you get approved at the same time. We approve 6 of you. Go. And let the market figure out who gets the assets and who doesn't. To me, that is one, much more fair. And then also two is the competition ends up holding fees lower and really driving kind of innovation and adoption in the market. It would be wild to me if we saw them just say, hey, we're only going to pick one and the regulators get to choose who the winner is.
I don't think they're really debating the players at all, right? A lot of big institutions, Skybridge, Fidelity, all these places have applied for these and very trustworthy institutions in the space. I think they're more obviously just looking at Bitcoin ETFs and ETPs in general. And then when they make that decision, they're going to go ahead and approve a bunch of them at the same time, or at least a week or a month kind of lag. In the next 18 to 24 months, I 100% see them approving one. Or approving a few, I would say. But in like Joe said, in the next 6 months, it's probably up in the air a little bit as they work through it. But yeah, they've been working on this forever. I mean, eventually we're going to start lagging behind other countries and other markets because we don't have this available to people who want access to it.
Yeah, and I think ETFs are they're generally seen as a safer investment vehicle depending on kind of what people are looking for. So not only is it a matter of time, but it's in the best interest of kind of the organizations that are involved to get something worked out and ironed out. But yeah, I agree. I don't think that they're going to king make someone. I think that it only makes sense to put everyone on a level playing field. And I think that's what's really taking so long, is saying, hey, look, we want to do 5, 6, 7 of these at a time. We don't want to just give kind of a first mover advantage to Fidelity or Grayscale or whoever it ends up being and say, hey, look, you're the winner here. Everyone go, pump assets into their fund and stuff like that. I think it's more about putting everyone on a level playing field and saying, hey, we approved 5 or 6 of these. Now go fight it out, provide the best product, compress fees down to 0, etc. And I think what we'll see is it's going to bring in drastically more demand for the space as people go figure out that these are kind of safer and more maybe diversified or whatever vehicles that you can invest in the space in.
I'll be interested to see if and when Fidelity gets approved, that if they allow access from retirement accounts, because it's such a big retirement organization, a bunch of corporations have their retirement accounts through Fidelity. If they access that capital and let that go into the ETF, that would obviously bring a lot of money into the space.
The most important part of the ETF conversation, to me, is once it gets approved, is let's look at what gold, when the ETF got approved in gold. Have you guys ever seen this chart? This is wild. So right there is the first gold ETF that launched. And look at the price of gold right after the ETF. Just massive influx of demand, and it just exploded. And so you can see for, almost 20 years before, there was just kind of flat price movement, right? There's a little bit of fluctuation, but not really. And then all of a sudden they went from sub $500, it was like $200 gold, all the way up to eventually in 2011, it peaked around, like $1,800 or so. And so when you see something like this, now in there, in 2008, 2009, and in 2010, there was also the global financial crisis.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of monetary stimulus, et cetera, that forced people into gold. But you can see from 2002, 2003, up until that financial crash, there was still pretty significant increase in demand and price. We laughing at.
Well, it's also over a 6-7 year period, right? So
but my point is,
it flowed in immediately.
No, but that's my point. Is once you create the ETF and you open up the opportunity for people to come in, then what ends up happening is you get increased demand, and it's not just a one-time thing; it's a persistent increase in demand. And so gold is already somewhat scarce asset. If you look at something like Bitcoin, which is more scarce, it ends up being really, really powerful.
I want these to get approved. I'll be very clear about that. I want them to get approved like now.
Yeah, but even if you look at the chart before the global financial crisis, it clearly had an impact on the overvalue of gold because it trended in that kind of range for 2 decades prior, and then for the 3 to 4 years after that.
Why is that? Because the ETF basically gave people access to it without having to hold gold itself?
Yeah, it opens up a wider range of potential investors.
I think that the ETF gets approved. I don't think it's this year. If it gets approved this year, plus what we're seeing in the on-chain metrics, do that dance again, John. Yeah. That's exactly what will be happening. Everyone that watches this show will be dancing across the living room. What's up, guys? Bang, bang. Thanks so much for watching the Best Business Show today. If we're going to be the best business show, we obviously need the best partner. That's why the exclusive sponsor of the Best Business Show is SoFi. They're an all-in-one platform that allows you to invest in all kinds of different assets, including stocks, ETFs, crypto, IPOs, and they even have an automated investing function, if that's your thing. So before we start getting after it again, make sure that you go download SoFi, you get an invest account, and when you make your first crypto trade, regardless of what you buy, they'll give you $10 in Bitcoin for free. It's that simple. Head on over to SoFi.com/Pomp to get started today. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you come back and watch more of the Best Business Show tomorrow.